We are your friends and partners and brothers and sisters. We want to marry your daughters and your sons. We want to live with you and trade with you. We just don't like politicians that we cannot fire. That's all.
Hi everyone, welcome to my office. I'm back for another interview with Steve. So Steve, first question, could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm Steve Kelleher. I am the son of Irish immigrants. I've lived in London all my life. I have 5 children. I run a recruitment business. And very recently, I failed to become Mayor of London. I've stood to be Mayor of London, and the people of London did not vote for me.
I like the emphasis. All right. So let's go straight to the point. What is your relationship with Brexit?
Like many people in England, I didn't care about it for many years, and it was just a political fight on TV. And then we had a referendum, and like many people, I was maybe 52-48 for leaving. It wasn't a big deal, but longer term, it felt like we needed to have politicians to be accountable. So I voted leave, but it wasn't a big deal. Then, when there was no Brexit and all the parties were trying to make us have another vote, that was too much. That was against democracy. And I joined the Brexit Party, and I stood to be a Brexit Party MP.
Can you tell us one of your favorite anecdotes with regards to the Brexit campaign?
Right at the beginning, the anecdote is simple. We had a choice of 3 parties: Tories, Labour, Liberal Democrats, all of them very pro-Europe. There was no opportunity or no choice to vote against Europe except the Brexit Party, which started from nothing, and in 4 months, from no money and no people, we became the biggest party in Europe. We won 29 seats in Europe. The complacency of the establishment politicians was so hilarious. And I say to you all now, I see the same thing happening in Europe right now, where establishment politicians in Europe don't care about voters, and they, I think, could now start to see a real problem because the pandemic has been handled so badly.
So you mentioned trade, and let's go now on the more political / democratic side of the EU.
Okay.
That's a very tough question, but I remember it was important during our preparatory meeting, so let's go.
Okay.
So again, one of the lead campaign arguments was that the EU is a political project, a union, but without democratic foundations.
Yes.
You mentioned, for instance, that the Commission, one of the 3 most important institutions in the EU, is not accountable to its citizens.
Yeah. It's the most important. It's the most
important one. Yeah. So what is your opinion on this? And do you have any anecdote or personal story related to this lack of democracy in the EU?
Personally, one, which is I'm Irish background. I have much family in Ireland. And Ireland has voted, because of its constitution, has voted against different European treaties. And every time it votes against them, its vote is thrown in the bin, and the thing continues. The main anecdote was back in 2005. In May and June of 2005, we had France and the Netherlands vote against the constitutional change. And so what did Europe do? They waited 2 years. They changed the name to the Lisbon Treaty, and then they said it's not really a treaty, it's an amendment to old treaties, and therefore we don't need to do nasty things like referendums and votes, and they just pushed it through. And that is the EU, absolutely perfect. Keep voters away, because the priesthood of the EU know best.
That's that's a very interesting argument, because for me, the Lisbon Treaty is the most recent treaty I know, because I was born this time.
Yeah.
And now I understand your argument, because the context has changed. Brexit has occurred. So maybe this discussion could lead the way to a debate as to whether we need another 2021 treaty, or at least a discussion. But let's move on again on the topic of Brexit, and let's dive into the more economic side. We hear and we read that Brexit has economic consequences. Now, it's vague, but do you see them personally? And
yes,
do you have an opinion if they could have been avoided, maybe?
I do. So first of all, yes, there are real economic consequences. They are almost all bad for the UK. However, the question is great because it also encapsulates one of the misunderstandings. There was no economic consequence that mattered in this debate. This was a debate about the accountability of your politicians. And there is no price that you would not pay to have democratic power. So whilst this has been disastrously handled by very poor politicians in the UK, very poor politicians, the costs will be big for my industry and many others. There is no cost that mattered. This was not a transaction. This was a democratic decision, and that's it.
I really like this argument. In the end, yes, it was a referendum. It was a democratic choice. But I'm going to ask you a very personal question. Are you happy with the way Brexit happened?
It's been a political disaster. We have appalling politicians in the UK that have deliberately lied and are hoping that their lies will eventually be forgotten, or that because of the power of the UK market, they will be able to ignore the rules, etc. It's been a disaster. However, I don't believe the UK could have left the EU without the referendum, as there were no political parties that gave you a choice, except in our democracy, we had the UKIP. You remember UKIP? UKIP got 4 million votes and received 1 seat in Parliament. The Scottish National Party got 800,000 votes and received 53 seats in Parliament. This isn't a democracy. It was only a referendum that could provide a democratic vehicle.
What is your message to other Europeans, continental Europeans?
Continental Europeans, we are your friends and partners and brothers and sisters. We want to marry your daughters and your sons. We want to live with you and trade with you. We just don't like politicians that we cannot fire. That's all. And that's our message.
That's really clear. It's time for me to conclude. I wanted also to be sincere and to thank you deeply, because I'm a French citizen. We only got in France, we only got the message of a Remainer because we were pro-European, and we never had the chance, for instance, in our national media to discuss with leaders, to truly hear what they had to say. I hate that. This is not the way I've been educated by my parents. So thank you very much. And what I will remember from this interview is actually that you make a difference between the economic consequences, the political consequences, and what the economic side and the political side could bring to the UK and outside the EU. And that's really interesting, because usually these arguments are not distinct. It's a mix of the EU is bad, but we don't know why. So thank you very much. And
my pleasure. My pleasure.
Really,
thank you for inviting me. It's been very, very good fun, and I hope we do it again more. I do think it's vital for the young generation in the UK and Europe to realise that these stupid politicians of my age have made a mess, We are all brothers and sisters. We can work together. And I believe that the EU must become more democratically accountable to you people, or you will do a Brexit as well.